In theoretical physics, the multiverse is the idea that our universe is not the limit of reality, but is just one of an infinite number of them. Some of these universes might be radically different, or completely the same, or similar but for tiny, subtle differences. With a multiverse, anything is on the table. Since a multiverse is infinite, anything we could possibly imagine could be out there, and since another universe need not obey the physics of our own, a multiverse could contain possibilities unimaginable on our planet and even in our own universe.
All right, so imagine there are multiple versions of Earth, one where the Nazis won World War II, one where Kennedy was never assassinated.
Oh yeah, one where all of us are evil.
Been there, it sucks.
So if this is all true, it raises the question, if you can tell any kind of story imaginable in a multiverse, then why is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness so goddamn boring? In popular media, the first major appearance of the multiverse comes in 1961 with The Flash number 123, The Flash of Two Worlds, written by comics legend Gardner Fox. The story concerns Barry Allen, the rebooted Atomic Age version of The Flash, accidentally traveling to the universe of Jay Garrick, the original World War II era version of the character. Despite the constrained formats of a 10-cent children's comic, Fox is able to explore some of the emotional complexities of the multiverse conceit, most notably the fact that Jay Garrick, when confronted with a younger and more active analog to himself, is inspired to come out of retirement and fight crime alongside the Flash from another world. And so, Gardner Fox establishes two elements that would define the multiverse story for decades: the lucrative potential for crossover stories, and the reckoning with the other, in all of its divergences and similarities.
You're insane.
Does it really matter? There are alternate versions of me that you would find quite charming.
The function of storytelling and creation is inherently based in a multiverse of some form. It's almost kind of taking that and making it a meta aspect of things where basically by writing a story, you're producing another universe.
Kate Adams Fisher is a writer, an English major at the College of Worcester, and an overall fiction enjoyer.
I think the entertainment industry likes making stories about the multiverse just because it's flashy oftentimes. I feel like in regards to specifically, say, superhero films and things like that, it's a great way to add spectacle without having to explain themselves. It also, I feel like, can be used as a cheap shortcut in writing. In the same way it can be used to tell much more compelling and interesting stories, it can also be used to tell things that kind of fall flat.
Part of why Doctor Strange's multiverse failed to grab me, I think, is because it felt like they barely scratched the surface of what the concept can offer. While there was one visually impressive scene of multiversal travel, there are really only two alternate universes of any story importance in the movie's 2-hour runtime, and neither of them feel especially impossible or even novel.
So there's an infinite number of parallel universes?
No, just the two.
Oh, well, I'm sure that's enough.
I will complain about Marvel and their manifestation of the multiverse at any point and how much it's disappointed me. They built an idea meant solely to throw more things into it that they can make marketable. They basically thought, we've kind of washed out the confines of this narrative, so let's literally just break through the universe so we can find other trademarked characters to throw into the mix.
In Space Jam: A New Legacy, directed by Malcolm D. Lee and released in 2021, LeBron James gets sucked into the Serververse, a digital multiverse in which each universe is the world of a different Warner Bros. Franchise. Far from an infinite multiverse of boundless possibility, the Serververse is bound dead. Instead of being able to travel to any world you can imagine, in the Serververse, your options are limited to Warner Bros. Intellectual property. In this way, the multiverse becomes just another piece of imaginative real estate that entertainment companies are trying to lay claim on. Nowadays, our childhood toys are less likely to be from an assorted hodgepodge of different sources than they are from a couple key franchises. Disney's premier streaming service organizes itself not into genres, but into brands. When entertainment companies make claims on imaginative real estate, we as the audience can only afford to rent. We might find it harder and harder to imagine original stories for ourselves, but we get to see our favorite Disney princesses all hanging out in their PJs together, so that's gonna have to be good enough. More recently, Warner Bros. Has expanded its Serververse concept to the fighting game MultiVersus, in which characters from all across the Warner Brothers portfolio come together to duke it out. From Bugs Bunny to Superman, from Arya Stark to Steven Universe, the gang is certainly all here. But what unsettles me about this crossover is the unnerving, smoothed-over art style they slapped on every playable character. In a show like Rick and Morty, a multiverse is a chance to showcase weird, bizarre, and incomprehensible concepts, one after the other. The unpredictable multiplicity to the show's setting is what gives it a lot of its charm.
Mom, Dad, look! Strawberries on a cob!
Whoa, hey, check this out! Flowers on a cob!
Get in the ship, sweetie.
What?
Get in the damn ship. Everything's on a cob. The whole planet's on a cob. Go, go, go.
But in MultiVersus, every character has been carefully redesigned so that they all fit with each other. If any part of me wanted to see Arya Stark meet Bugs Bunny, it would be because they're from such opposite worlds that just watching them interact would be fascinating on its own. Into the Spider-Verse understood this much.
What are you? Some kind of silly cartoon?
You got a problem with cartoons?
But in MultiVersus, Arya Stark isn't a traumatized assassin, a child haunted by the murders of her family members. She's a sword and a costume and a couple of voice lines. Everything human about her has been sanded off, just so it doesn't distract when she's standing in a lineup next to Batman and Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. To Warner Brothers, a multiverse is nothing more than an excuse to leverage your intellectual property in ways that a less fantastical story wouldn't allow.
We're in DC world, Doc. And where there's trouble, there's superheroes.
Everything Everywhere All at Once, directed by Daniels and released in 2022, is not part of any franchise. Its budget was an eighth of Doctor Strange's. It had a VFX team of 6 people and was released by a distributor that had never made an action movie before. It might be the best multiverse story ever told.
It ticks all the boxes. It uses the multiverse to tell a different story about family, and it uses the absurdity that comes with the multiverse to its fullest extent. I think someone deciding to use the full absurdity of the multiverse to tell a story about family and human connection is the best way they could have used it.
I first fell in love with multiverse stories because of superhero comics, but it took a non-franchise story to make me fall in love with them again. And it did so by reminding me that while multiverses have always been about crossovers that drive sales, they can also be written with passion towards their settings, curiosity towards their characters, and imagination. In the end, there was one idea in Doctor Strange that really does ring true. Every time we dream, we peer into another universe.
It can be used to denote tragedy in the fact that there's a place where things are different. It can be used to make a beacon of hope or an escape. It's the same as like a foreign land, but it's also, in that same regard, a reflection of ourselves.
There are cheap aspects to multiverse storytelling, aspects that will continue to be exploited by entertainment companies trying to squeeze everything they own into a single shot. But multiverse stories also drive at the heart of what storytelling fundamentally does, because in a multiverse and in a story, any reality you want can be real, so long as you can imagine it.